Street Fighter 6 dropped the biggest patch that they've ever done 2 weeks ago, shaking the game to its very core. When there's so many things to choose, I usually go to the thing that draws me the most. Every Juri player, from rookie all the way to masters, we all have the same issue, and that's her inability to deal with fireballs. This is a really hard topic to talk about for me because whenever I do talk about it, most of my peers say, hey, you're complaining and you shouldn't complain. If I say that Juri has an issue that's really annoying to deal with, most people say, Juri's fine, Juri's top tier, she won $1 million. What are you complaining about? One thing that I'm very proud of is that I tend to be a beacon for Juri players. Because I tend to be that beacon, I talk to a lot of Juri players, so I understand what they're going through. This is not based upon assumption. This is not based upon results. I'm talking about how it feels to play Juri, and I know the struggles that Juri players go through. Sometimes Juri players will say things like, hey, it's so annoying to have to store. We should start our round with stores. And I go, no, that's a bit too much. Or the dive kick dropping, and Capcom still hasn't fixed that properly. I say, no, we're doing the dive kick wrong. If you do it in this way, you won't have that problem. But when everyone comes to me and they say, I have such a hard time against fireballs, what do? I go, switch to Cammy. So in this rant of a video, I want to break down why I believe Juri needs to have something that deals with fireballs and why she's the outlier in this game. What do I mean by Juri being an outlier to the whole cast? If you were to look at the whole cast quickly, you would see that every character in the game has some kind of answer to fireballs that makes the opponent afraid to throw fireballs. It might not be exactly punishing them, but to make them second guess throwing them at all. I'm not saying their tools are great. When you look at a character like Jamie, Bakai is not a great option, but it's made specifically to deal with fireballs. Capcom did buff this move, and it's more effective against fireballs and also leads to big damage. And yes, from far away, it's not going to act the same. I understand that. But Capcom didn't leave this character to just deal with fireballs. They gave him something to deal with fireballs. But this option is locked behind drink level 2, so he has to build toward that. Understandable, but it's something that when Jamie has 2 drinks, all of a sudden, the whole match will change, and Ryu has to think about possibly not throwing the fireball. Another character that comes to mind is Menon. She has her quarter circle forward punch that can go through fireballs on a read, but hard to do on reaction. Like, not much happens from here. But there is a range and there is a time where Ryu has to at least think about it because you have that option. Because if he throws one wrong fireball, it could lead to the end of the match. Again, we're not talking about how effective it is. We're talking about the threat of it and that the move was made to do that. And her level 2 is completely invincible. It's only 6 frames, but it's possible to use that to deal with fireballs. So quickly, just going through the cast, we have Luke having his level 1 that can blow through fireballs, but also the fact that he can trade his fireballs with regular fireballs. At least the clash is enough to mitigate, and he could always use his 2-hitting OD fireball to get the knockdown and start to pressure his opponent. Jamie, we talked about, he has his Bakai. Menon, we talked about. Kimberly is an interesting case because it needs to be done on a read, but she does have her OD teleport. But now that I think about it, her level 2 also puts her in the air and allows her to punish fireballs as well. On top of that, she can jump and bait out responses, and she could jump, see that it's going to hit, and then go for the level 2. Of course, there's risk, but you can also play around it and not get your full jump arc and bait out reversals. Juri cannot do this. She has to go all in on her jump and then try to react with a dive kick. Marisa is an interesting case because technically her supers can punish fireballs. Her Gladius technically can go through fireballs, but again, it's short range and you have to be kind of close to it. Her Superman punch can technically go over fireballs and has armor, but it does require you to have somewhat of a read. But even if they don't throw the fireball, she's still +2 on block. Now, I agree, it's hard to react to the fireball because you'll get hit on startup. However, if you just make the read, even if they block it, you're still plus. She also still has her counter, which can go through fireballs. Lily has her Condor Spire, which leaves her plus after using it and also goes through fireballs. Not only that, but she can neutral jump her dive to go over fireballs. JP has a million fireballs and different ways to clash while also having a teleport. DJ's fireball is really good because he can get 2 hits on it and then drive rush after it. I forgot, his Just Cool can actually go under fireballs, but his level 2 also goes clean through fireballs as well. Like Kimberly, Cammy can use her hooligan to approach in the air, but also drop down to bait out reversals. And the fact that she can adjust her angle with her dive kick and make herself safe is a threat when people use fireballs. But most importantly, she has Spin Knuckle, which goes through fireballs and leaves her plus on block. So like Marisa, even if the person blocks it, they are still plus and it's still their turn. Ryu's an interesting case because he doesn't have anything specifically that deals with fireballs, but he can always match and clash and use EX to go through the next one. On top of it, if you have a Denshin Charge, the fireball user has to be afraid of his next fireball because it has 2 hits. There's just a lot of ways that Ryu can punish a person for using a fireball, even if he doesn't have anti-fireball properties. The big outliers that people talk about are characters like Honda, but even Honda has armor on his headbutt, which can punish fireballs. He could also use his butt slam to get around fireballs, and And if they block it, he's still plus. Specifically, his level 2 is made to go through fireballs. Again, I'm not saying that these are the best tools, but he's got moves that are specifically made to interact with fireballs. Blanka has his slide. Blanka is a character that mostly has to deal with fireballs, but has options to punish on reaction. With that being said, his slide works as intended and can punish accordingly. Guile is the master of projectiles, so he just wins engagements. Ken, like Ryu, can match fireballs and use EX to clash with fireballs. At a range, you can run and Shoryuken, or you can use EX to run through and then combo after. Again, this was a tool that was given to him so that he can at least interact with fireballs and start to pressure himself. Chun-Li can go through fireballs. She has her Hazanshu. She has her fireball, her EX fireball, and her drive rush after the fireball. Zangief's interesting because you would think he would be weak to fireballs, but he does have his EX lariat to go through fireballs. On top of it, his level 2 is meant to go through fireballs and will punish them. So at the very least, when Zangief has 2 bars, the Ryu has to be afraid of throwing a fireball and can change the whole mindset of the matchup. Dhalsim has his own fireballs. He's got his teleport. He's got his long limbs to beat it on startup. Rashid can clash with fireballs. He's got his new run into super. If you start to get ahead and charge your fireball, Ryu has to be afraid of throwing the fireball. On top of it, just having a level 2 that stays on screen and has a lot of fireball durability allows him to approach even in the fireball war. Aki can throw fireballs herself and also dive through them now with her new buff. Ed can clash with his flicker, has a fireball of his own. And Akuma also has a fireball that's pretty good, has his demon flip, has a multi-hitting charge fireball, and also an EX fireball. But then we look at Juri. Juri does have her Fuhajin to trade with the fireball, and it does help her build resources. But once you get your resources, if you throw it, a lot of times you'll still get hit and they could block afterwards. If you throw an EX on a reaction, you'll still get hit and they can still block it. If you do get ahead and you throw it, you do have recourse to still get the knockdown. And even using EX Fuhajin to break a fireball, it doesn't make your opponent afraid. You get 1 resource and you use 2 bars. A lot of times I try to perfect parry a fireball and cancel it to my own fireball, but again, we see that they're able to block afterwards. You can perfect parry up close and throw a fireball, but you still trade. And a lot of times I try to perfect parry options like jump, so that if I get the perfect parry, I can still jump over the next fireball. But if you notice in the rest of the cast, I didn't talk about perfect parry at all. Even though I can make a read and dive kick a fireball, it requires me to make a read and I'm not plus on landing. I'm always negative after a dive kick on block. So yes, as a read, I do have options to deal with a fireball, but like at the same time, as a read, I can also jump over the fireball like everyone else in the game. So of course I can parry and perfect parry get in. But Juri is the only character in the game that on reaction doesn't have anything that's supposed to interact with fireball. There is nothing that Juri can do other than make a read to make you afraid to throw the next fireball. Of course, I have a level 3, but it also requires me to have 3 whole bars and be somewhat close to the character. Technically, I can EX Tensenrin through, but it requires me to be close as well. Even up close, if I do it wrong, I can still be hit because I don't have that much invincibility. So when I say Juri is an outlier, I mean that. She's the only character in the game that doesn't have something that's somewhat safe to deal with fireballs, or on reaction can be used to navigate a fireball or punish a fireball. And the argument of, well, that's just her weakness, she's strong in other ways, she has to have something bad about her, that really doesn't apply to Street Fighter 6, nor should it apply to Street Fighter 6. Because we have archetypes that's supposed to be weak to zoning, but still having options to deal with zoning. Or we have characters that's supposed to be really strong up close, but being weak from far away. Cammy, for an example, has ways to get in and still safe on block. Same thing as Lily. She's a grappler, but she has ways to navigate fireballs, and she's got ways to stay safe after navigating the fireballs. You have characters like Marissa where it's hard to actually navigate fireballs, but skillfully you can do so. In fact, she's got options that are made to navigate those fireballs. But even if she's wrong and makes a bad read, if the person doesn't react to it, she's still plus and she's navigated the space. Now she's up close to you where she's strongest. You got characters that have superior fireballing while also still having drive rush. So characters like Guile and Chun-Li both can zone out, but also can punish you trying to counter zone. Every character who's a grappler has something to navigate fireballs and possibly get in. Some aren't great, but even Capcom has said, hey, the options that we gave them aren't good enough, let's buff them. I'll take back every change I got with Juri in Season 2 if I get something that deals with fireballs consistently. I made a video going over my wish list for the balance adjustment patch that just passed. Some of the changes were ways that I think that they should adjust Juri to deal with fireballs. But the number one change that I think that they should have made was to make her level 2 fireball invul, because she can choose a dash, and she should be able to go through fireballs with that dash. If she could go through fireballs with her Feng Shui Engine dash, she could navigate the screen a little bit easier in matchups where people want to litter the screen with fireballs. But most important, when she has 2 bars of super gauge, it would make people think twice about throwing fireballs because she could always use her level 2. And if she uses level 2 to turn the tide of the match, this can be her win condition. But unfortunately, without anything, she's forced to make a read. And when I talk to people about Zangief having to use 2 bars to go through fireballs, I say that's fair because he's using 2 bars of his super gauge to go through the fireball. But if I say, okay, let Juri do the same thing, they go, well, that would be too strong. Well, what are we talking about here? Part of the issue when talking about this, I don't think that people are fair when talking about Juri. Is Juri annoying to fight against? Absolutely. Is she frustrating to fight against? Absolutely. I fight a lot of Juris and I hate the matchup. But if I were to say, hey, maybe her enhanced versions of her kick special should have some kind of fireball property, people say, no, that would be cheap. If I were to say, hey, can her Fuhajin be marked as a fireball so that I can cancel Fuhajin into a level 3 on Clash, people say that would be cheap. My Fuhajin is not marked as a fireball, but Ryu can still clash with it and go through it. But since Juri's Fuhajin is not marked as a fireball on Clash, I can't use her level 3 to go through it and punish Ryu. But this is common. Even characters like Aki can do so. If they made her dive kicks faster on startup, that would solve a lot of problems. It would allow me to react to dive kicks later and still get the punish, or allow me to have light, medium, or heavy versions of the dive kick so I can reach the opponent from far away. If Juri's hit on startup, her fireball goes away. It needs to fully come out so that it stays on screen. If it came out a bit quicker like OD Fireball, maybe that would be different. If Juri can use OD Fireball and then clash with it and then go into a super, that would help out. There's something else that's missing from Juri, and I'm surprised people don't talk about it more. It's the fact that she doesn't have a move on her quarter circle back punch. There's just a slot for a move that's just not used, and there's no reason that she shouldn't have a move here. And in this case, again, Juri is an outlier. She's one of the few in the cast that has an open slot for a move that's not being used. Most of the cast has moves on quarter circle forward punch, quarter circle back punch, quarter circle forward kick, quarter circle back kick. In Ryu's case, he has all 4 of these, as well as having Shoryuken and having his Denjin charge on his down punch. The only times I can think of that this is the case is characters that have half circle back, full circle, or charge inputs. The only other character that I can think of is Luke, because he doesn't have a quarter circle back kick input. So a character like Jamie might not have a quarter circle back kick input, but he has a half circle back kick input. DJ has quarter circle kicks with different options like Juri, quarter circle back punch, quarter circle back kick, but he doesn't have a quarter circle forward punch. But he has all those inputs while having a charge back and a charge down input. Guile is a character like Juri that doesn't have all of his slots filled. He has his quarter circle back punch with different options afterwards, but it also interacts with his sonic boom. He's got his charge back punch and his charge down kick. But Guile is different in that he has a lot of unique attacks. And this has always been Guile's MO. With that being said, even though he's only got these 3 attacks here, this is all he needs because his game plan is so strong. So Guile is like Juri. He doesn't have all of his input slots possibly used, but the strength of Guile far outpasses his need to have additional moves. Because with these 3 moves, he's got options for almost every situation. And then we have Zangief that doesn't have all of his slots filled. However, he does have a lot of half circle and full circle inputs. In this case, there would be a lot of overlapping inputs and might cause some input errors. In Juri's case, she has her quarter circle back kick, quarter circle forward kicks, her DP, her quarter circle back kick in the air, but she doesn't have a quarter circle forward punch or a quarter circle back punch. It seems like Capcom is trying to purposely get away from her Street Fighter 4 iteration. Lore-wise, she doesn't have the same eye that she had in Street Fighter 4, so her powers are going to be different in Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6. In Street Fighter 4, she had Kasatushi, which was quarter circle back punch, and it allowed her to absorb 1 hit and then teleport around the screen. The EX version was controllable, and you could go back, forward, or even up, or even at a diagonal. In Street Fighter 5, they got rid of this move and gave her the V skill Kasatushu. After she charged it, she can now pass through fireballs and punish them. But she also had her quarter circle back kick, which was her Ryodan Satsu. Most Juri players hated Ryodan Satsu because it didn't work all the time to punish fireballs. But the EX one had invincibility from fireballs on frame 1. This allowed her to go through fireballs and punish them and get more damage afterwards. And even if they blocked it, she was -2 and safe on block. On top of that, it was off the ground early so it could evade throws. At the end, most players started to like Ryodan Satsu. And after Street Fighter 6 dropped, almost all the Juri players said, man, we wish we could have it back. And since she doesn't have an input on quarter circle back punch, why not give her a new move on that input? If they gave her Ryodan Satsu, it would be a great way to go through fireballs. It was made to work just like Chun-Li's Hazanshu. In fact, the move looked almost exactly like it. In my opinion, there is no reason for her to not have this move. But if she had her Katsutoshi, her parry move, she could use it like Marissa would use her OD and her regular parry. Or if she had her Katsutushu from Street Fighter V, if she charged it, she can now use it to go through fireballs. And it could be just like how Lily has to deal with fireballs. Without a stock, she can't go through, but if she has the stock, now the Ryu has to be scared to use the fireball. Now, I'm going to be honest, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from jury players, but if she had those options, it would be very strong and hard to deal with. And that's why I look at reasonable options like using 2 bars of her super to go through a fireball. Would it be annoying? Yes, but it would happen very infrequently. But it might be enough to make people afraid to throw fireballs. I think this is a huge miss on Capcom's part because she has quarter circle back and quarter circle forward to use for some kind of move that can be used skillfully to go through fireballs or to at least strike fear in the fireball's heart. I know it might sound like I'm biased because I'm a jury player, but I always try to be fair and I try to be unbiased. For anyone who doesn't play jury that says that this is a non-issue, I invite you to pick up jury and try it for yourself. Play her at a high level, and you'll see the characters that she struggles with most are all characters that have fireballs. And even though she was made to be a character that's supposed to deal with Shotos and fireballs, in this game, I think she loses to them. And that's all I have for this rant. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comment section below. I'm not hopeful that the comment section are going to give reasonable feedback, most of which you guys are just going to say skill issue. But if you don't know what to say, leave a purple heart in the comment section. It helps the algorithm and helps this video get to more people. And if you like this kind of video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.